Hello everyone and welcome back to Azam Sharp Weekly. In this video I'm going to go over that how you can perform an update operation when you're using core data with SwiftUI. Let's go ahead and first run the application and see that what we have. You can see that right now we don't really have any posts. I'm going to go ahead and click on add post and I can go ahead and add a post. Let's say hello Python and we can just say some sort of a body. Save. And you can see that we have Hello Python added. If I go ahead and check in my database, I can go ahead and say select all from the post. That's the name of the table. And here it is. You can see that Hello Python has been added. Great. So now the question is, well, how do we update this? Maybe I meant to say Hello JavaScript or Hello iOS or Hello Swift. So let's go ahead and get started with this. The first thing we need is we need to create some sort of a details page where people can go and perform an update. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new file. This will be a Swift view. This view will be responsible for providing text boxes and all sorts of things to update, and I will call it post detail view. You can call it update view if you want to. That's perfectly fine also. There we go. In order to perform an update, we need to pass something to this view. So we're going to pass in a post, which will be of type PostViewModel. So we are passing a view model to a post detail view so that we can, well, update the post. And we also need to update the previews because now there's a dependency. We have to pass in the post. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to first of all create a post, and now I can pass a post with a post view model passing in the actual post, which is coming from the core data, this part. And make sure that we return it. So let's go ahead and return it. There we go. Okay, so this is our post details view, and we want to go to this view when the person selects a particular row. So I'll go to the content view, and inside content view, I can go ahead and make a navigation link that goes to a different destination. So I'm going to wrap this text with a navigation link. So I'm just going to call it navigation link. And you'll see the navigation link comes with a lot of different overloads. The one that we're looking for is the one where we can pass in the destination and the label. So destination in this case is where do we want to go. When you click on it, I want to go to the post details view and I want to pass a post model. The label is what the person, the user, will see, and the label is simply the text view that we have. Control I, here we go. Let's go ahead and run this so that we know that we can go to a different page now. You can see that now the arrow appears, the disclosure indicator, and I can go from here to there. Great, right? Okay, so what next do we want to do? Well, we want to create some sort of a text boxes over here in the post detail view so that we can enter information. Let's go ahead and see if we can display the canvas, and it might help out a little bit. So let's go and jump into the post details view, and I'm going to start by adding a V stack over here, a vertical stack. And inside the vertical stack, I can add a couple of different text fields where we will collect the information from the user. And the information will be the title, and the information will be the body. But where should we put that information? So I can go ahead and always create a state variable, and we can create a title, and we can go ahead and create also a body property. But one other approach is to use a ViewState view model. So I'll show you what exactly that is. First, we're going to go inside our post list view model. So let's go ahead and, we can create this anywhere you like. Post list view model is one of those places where you can create that. You can even go to the update view model, which doesn't really exist. So I can go ahead and create an update view model. So let's go ahead and create a new view model. right over here. And UpdateView model will be responsible for all the stuff that happens on this post details screen. So I'm going to go ahead and create an UpdateView model. There we go. And UpdateView model will be a class, UpdateView model, which will be an observable object. And inside the class, we will create some functions later on. Now back to the post details view, if I'm writing a text field over here, you can see that I can go ahead and write the string, which will appear in the text field. So I guess we can always use post.title. So it's already kind of like populated with some sort of a placeholder. And for this text, we need to find a bindable expression. And we can create a state, and we can provide that property over here. But the other way of doing this is to provide a view state. So let me show you how we can create that. I'm going to go into post view model, but you can obviously create this state anywhere you like. And I'm going to simply create a very basic structure of the input that I want to receive from the user. And I'll call it post view state. You can also call it edit view state, edit post view state, update post view state, anything you want. It has 3 different properties. So now, instead of creating separate state variables over here, we can simply create one state variable that can control the whole UI input information. So I can go ahead and I can create a post view state property right over here and mark it with state. All right. And since this is state, this is bindable. So this means I can replace all of this with PostViewState.title, and I can do that also for post.body and PostViewState.body. This means that anytime the person is going to write in the title, the PostViewState.title property gets populated, and PostViewState.body gets populated when person is typing in the body. Great. The next thing that we need is the actual button. So I'm going to go ahead and say button, which will be update. Now, in order to perform in an update, we need to provide the ID. And we know that this person, the view model, does have the ID. So we can actually utilize that. So I can say self.postViewState.postID equals to self.post.postID. Let's go ahead and build that. All right, so this is now saying that the post view model does not really have anything that is post ID. So that's not good. We need to make sure that we are returning or we do have access to the post ID. Let's go back to the post view model, and if you see over here, it clearly shows that we don't have anything related to the post ID. So let's go ahead and copy all of this code that I have, and I will simply go ahead and create a post ID. There we go. All right. Okay, so now we have that. And if you look at the blog app data model, you can see that our core data manage objects does have post ID. That's good. Let's go ahead and build it again. And now we will go back over here. And now we need to call the update. Now, this part, the post view state, can also belong in the update view model also. I mean, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. So I will say observed object private var update view model, which will be an update view model. And now I can go over here and call self.updateViewModel.update and passing in the view state, which I can simply call it over here view state or post, whatever you want to call it, or post view state, view state, I guess, like this. And we can simply pass in self.postViewState. Now, we don't really have any function called update, so it's going to complain. So at this point, we can go back to our update view model and start implementing our update function. So function update and post view state, which will be of type, I guess it will be of type post PostViewState. Let's call it over here. There we go, PostViewState. That's what we are going to be getting. Let's go ahead and build this. Okay, now this is all fine, but our core data manager does not really have anything to update the post. So we have to go and update our core data manager. So let's go ahead and jump into core data manager and provide some implementation for our updating the post. So let's go ahead and type it right over here. Function update post. In order to update the post, we better pass in the post ID, because that's kind of like the unique thing about the post. We will pass in the title and we will pass in the body, which is string. And this can also throw an exception, and now we can go ahead and update the post. Well, we have the post ID, so the first thing we need to do is we need to fetch the post from the existing database. So instead of doing this over here, it would be a better idea to create a separate function, because then it will be more reusable. Other people, other code can actually use it. So I'm going to say get post by ID, and I'm going to be passing in the post ID, which will be UUID. And it's going to return you something. So, well, first of all, it can also throw an exception, and it's going to return you a post. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and create a request, which will be of type NSFetchRequest, and we are trying to get the post. And we can create the request by saying post.fetchRequest, request.predicate, because we need to tell core data that, hey, how are we trying to fetch this? And over here, we can actually create a predicate based on the post ID. So I can say post ID should be equal to whatever we put over here. And that will be the post ID dot UUID string, like this. I don't think you need these brackets around it, so that's fine too. Let's go ahead and get the results. We will get the results self.manageObjectContext.fetch, and we will perform the request which we have created. Once we do that, we can go ahead and say return, and since we're only looking for, and hopefully you'll only find one particular post with the post ID that we're providing, we'll simply return that particular post. Okay, so now we have the function, now we can use it. So let's go ahead and call this function. There we go. Now over here, you can see that I am forcefully unwrapping right here. Make sure that you are not doing that when you're creating your UUID. So most probably use a guard or something to do that. I'm actually just being a little bit lazy, and I'm adding this over here. But when you're creating a UUID over here, it can and it will return you an optional UUID when you initialize it. So make sure that you are initializing it somewhere else, and then you pass in the unwrapped version safely. Okay. Now, post to be updated, since this is returning you an optional post, this means post to be updated will be optional. So we will go ahead and unwrap it. Post to be updated equals to post to be updated. So now the unwrapped version will be living right over here, post to be updated. And now it's basically a matter of assigning the correct values. The title equals to title, post to be updated dot body equals to body, and then try and then save it again. So basically what save is going to do is it's going to save all the different objects which are currently in the manage object context, and the only object we're dealing with right now is the post to be updated, or a single post. So hopefully that will work. Now let's go back to our UpdateView model, because our UpdateView model is not really doing anything. You can see it's kind of blank over here. So now we can go ahead and call this. So I'm going to go ahead and say core data manager dot shared dot update post. I actually do have a post ID, so I can say PostViewState dot post ID title can be a view state or post view state title, and in this case will be PostViewState.body. Great. And we will also catch an exception if there is an exception. So we'll get that exception, and we can simply print out error.localizeDescription. So whatever the exception is being thrown. All right, now let's go back to the post details view. I think everything should be hopefully set up correctly now, and we should be able to update that particular post. Let's go ahead and run it and see if it updates. So I'm going to go ahead and run this right now. And there we go. It says hello Python. I'm going to go over here. It's already populated, not really formatted correctly, but you can see it's already populated. So I'm going to say over here hello JavaScript, and I'm going to say over here also hello JavaScript, and I'm going to perform an update. All right, let's go back, and you can see it's actually updated. Now there are a couple of things that we need to also check. What happens if you don't update one field? So if I go over here and I say hello Swift, but I don't really touch the body and update it, and now I go back, well, it updated it with the blank data. So that's definitely not what we want. It was saying something else over here, so it should say the same thing again, right? So now if I say I love Swift, and over here I'm just saying hello Swift, that's fine, and I can update that. Hello Swift, I love Swift, that's fine. Now if I say hello Swift, and I don't put anything over here and I update, well, then that value should be there. I mean, we are only updating one field. The reason that value is not there is that we are using a placeholder over here, which you can see, and placeholder is not the actual value. The actual value is whatever is going on in the title or in the body. So there are multiple ways to fix this part. You can see that whenever we are not writing anything over here, it just initialized it to, well, nothing. One of the solution, it might not be the best solution, is to assign these values that you are getting from the passed in post or the post view model directly to the post view state. Now this is okay because, I mean, if you run this, it's not going to appear as a placeholder now. It's going to appear as an actual value. So if you don't touch this value, these are the values that will be transferred, and, well, if you don't enter anything, the value will already be transferred. Now the bad side is that if you do want to edit this, then you will have to like delete everything out, right? So that's more of a like a UI issue that you'll have to configure to how to solve that. Some people will add like a clear button right next to the text field, and you can do those things. Some people will just, when you touch this, it will just clear it out. So there are multiple options over there. None of them is a little bit like as straightforward for me to do right now. But you can see that the values are actually updating correctly. The one other thing which can be better is when we call the update post, you can see that I had to pass in the post ID, and all of these fields, all of these primitive fields, I have to pass them separately. Now, I don't really want to pass in a post view state to the core data layer because it has no place over there. The view state is only to collect the data. What I am interested in passing a post to over here. The problem is that when you create a post and you require a manage object context, then it kind of changes things. It creates it into a new post. So we can't really do that thing also. The other option would be to use the update, but before using the update, use the post ID to actually get the post and then update the post and then send the updated post over here. So it's a, it's a compromise, or it's one or the other. You can use that. I think for now, since we only have the title to update and the body to update, passing like a couple of extra parameters, like 2 or 3 parameters, is fine. But if I had to update an address for someone where I have to pass in the name of the person and maybe the street and city and zip code and street and Texas and state and all that, then this approach might not be good, because then you will end up passing like 7 or 8 or 10 different arguments. So that's not a good idea. All right. But for our case, it's working fine, and we are able to update a post using our SwiftUI application and using the core data object wrapper. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how you can finally perform a delete operation. Hey, if you like this video and want to support my channel, then go to Udemy and check out my different courses. I just released a brand new course which goes into MVVM design pattern in SwiftUI. This just got released, and it is an amazing course which will take you to a journey of how you can implement MVVM design pattern by SwiftUI framework. And also it goes into client server. You will implement a node server and using JavaScript. It's a lot of fun. If you are looking for a course to just get started and also learn advancements in SwiftUI, then I have a separate course for you, which is SwiftUI Declarative Interfaces for any Apple device. This is a 21-hour course, and it covers every possible thing you can imagine about SwiftUI. This is also the best-selling course. So if you are interested in these courses, check out the YouTube description and click on the link. Thank you so much, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video.